It's incredible what has been achieved since Alison founded CRY in '95, and her first screening was in 1993. And whilst there's been a great deal of progress, I think it's fair to say we still have much to learn about these issues. And that is why research is so important. It's not just focusing on how best to identify those people at risk, but also to ensure that those people identified live the best quality life with these conditions. And it's fantastic, the team led by Sanjay, what they're achieving in their drive towards this. I'd like to bring the speeches to a close now by talking about some significant changes which have happened in the last 6 months. Firstly, this summer we reached a major milestone as the World Health Organization acknowledged that when a young person dies of SADS, this should be recognized by official government statistics, and therefore it will inform policy. For years we have been saying that SADS is an important cause of death. These are cardiac conditions which disappear once a person has died, once the electricity has gone. And in the same way, they no longer exist within the person after their death. Until now, they have ceased to exist as an official cause of death. In 2 to 3 years, when the WHO codes are introduced, this will change. And this has only been possible because of the research we've been pushing towards over the last 10, 15 years. Not only has the WHO acknowledged SADS as an important cause of death, they've also acknowledged a number of the other rarer conditions. But one particular condition, which I read the statement on their website, was arrhythmogenic right ventricular cardiomyopathy, ARVC. And when the WHO commented on ARVC, they went further than just identifying it as an important condition. They stated that screening had been proven to prevent sudden deaths from this condition. These are important changes, and our policymakers do need to take note of this. This morning we had 119 MPs who had signed up to our pledge. That number's gone past 122, 123 now. And that pledge is to establish a national strategy for young sudden cardiac death, to prevent these deaths. We know defibrillators are good. They do save young lives. And of course, every young person should be taught how to do CPR. There's no question about that. And people do need to know about the symptoms. There are sometimes symptoms, and they need to know about that. These are a given, but these are all reactionary. And we must accept they alone will not prevent the majority of young sudden cardiac deaths. Most of these deaths will occur at rest, during sleep, usually with no symptoms. And that is when screening comes in. That is why screening is so important. We need an overriding strategy. We've talked to, that's been spoken about tonight. So we can break the contradictions that we see in different policies that we have in the UK. An ECG is a powerful tool if you look at the NICE guidelines. If you go to the NHS Choices website, it talks about an ECG for conditions like Wolff, Parkinson, White, long QT, cardiomyopathies, Brugada. The ECG is the core tool there to identify them. Yet the National Screening Committee do not support these position statements. The policy also needs to be clear about symptoms, because we need to accept the fact that some people will have symptoms like breathlessness, palpitations, dizziness, and they're going to go and see their GP about it. They're going to be worried. The GP might recommend an ECG. That might identify a condition, it may not. Yet that same person, maybe a young 16-year-old boy who's a bit more blasé, is not going to see those as anything but normal. These are quite normal symptoms which pretty much everyone is going to have at some point. And yet, in that context, an ECG suddenly is not seen as a valid tool. So we need to accept that these inconsistencies in the policy, we need to eradicate this. And a policy which relies on symptoms alone will be costly and it will fail. Whilst the current MP support is brilliant, it's very much appreciated. We framed this campaign in a way that we believed it would appeal to all MPs. This is not just about screening, AEDs, CPR, symptom awareness. It's about acknowledging more needs to be done to prevent the 12 young sudden deaths every week, because this is not acceptable. So what is hard to understand is why there is not more support from MPs, why some of these MPs do not feel that more needs to be done. As a society, we go to enormous lengths and expense to try to save people's lives, to understand why they died, to learn from our actions in order to stop this happening again. But I've had 2 experiences in the last month which appear to confirm why some MPs are not taking this on board. They're not engaging. They appear to be quite clearly misinformed about the impact these conditions have. After requesting specific information from the National Screening Committee for years about the figures they are using to inform their policy, I finally had something in writing from them, an email. It clearly states, firstly, and quite honestly, that they don't really know how many young people are dying of these conditions. But also they've taken that position of ignorance and then they've decided to go with a number which at best understates the impact of these by 10 times, and that's at best. Whilst this could have been a typing error, could have been a bit of taken with a bit of salt, week later, I was at a meeting in the Scottish Parliament and I listened to another advisor brief an MP with a similar figure. What shocks me is there seems to be no will to look at the evidence. And science is important, but people's deaths, the fact that someone has died is also important. They need to look at the names of the young people who have died. And I've asked them to do this, but we are just one of the many stakeholders, so we don't have the right to have that meeting with the National Screening Committee to look at the figures and deconstruct them. So where do we go from here? Well, I would like for those MPs who are supporting our campaign to help to get to the truth of this issue, to ensure our policies in the UK are based on good science, they are consistent. We need them to help establish a national strategy where we can take a step back, we can look at the bigger picture, we can coordinate what is being done to save young lives. And in doing that, we will be able to realise what needs to change. This will be something we'll be raising next week at the All-Party Parliamentary Group when we meet. And I would urge any MPs to please come to that meeting if they want to get inside this issue. But we respect these are challenging times and the NHS is stretched to the absolute limits. And the fact that Cry families are able to support us in providing a service to young people throughout the UK is incredible. It's because of this support that we are an independent organisation and we do not just ask for change. We are showing what can be done through our actions. We've now tested over 180,000 people. But what's most impressive about that figure is the fact that 100,000 of these people were tested in the last 4 years alone, and that number is increasing rapidly. Every year, every person who is screened in a local community, the work you're doing as families in your communities with the screening programme. So at every screening, at every school, university, sports club, it's part of a bigger picture. It's a national programme where any person who wants to be screened now has the opportunity because of CRY. It's a national screening programme which is funded by CRY families. Thank you for everything you're doing to make this possible. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.